And the stay-at-home mums will actually probably relate to that. You're doing all the things for everyone else and slowly, you're not looking after yourself. You've had such profound spiritual experiences that have really rocked you to the core during the year.
You can either lose your or practice what you preach. I will never teach anything or speak of anything unless I fully understand it, embody it, and live it myself to my best of my ability. Hey everyone, Guy here. Welcome to my Let It In podcast. And we're doing something a bit different today. It's literally the new year. And I am joined by my princess herself, the better half of me, Lynda. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I think it's been like, I don't know, since 3 years you've been on the podcast, maybe even longer.
When Ava was little.
Yeah. Ava was little. And we've had a son since Ellis. And we just turned two about a month ago. And I feel like you're slowly coming out of it. Well, we are. But more so you than me, that's for sure.
Anyway, to go.
Beautiful to have a podcast. So we wanted to do something a bit different and just actually reflect upon 2025, moving into 2026, make it a bit more personal, get to know us a little bit. And there is a life outside the podcast because it's a very narrow lens at which people see things through. And, first of all, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The studio's not quite set up either for in-person guests, so we're kind of winging it a little bit.
I've got my leg on his leg. We got the kids upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, let's reflect on 2025. I think in some ways it's a challenging year for everyone. What's been your biggest challenge?
Oh, there's been heaps. I think it's been a very tough year, and I think a lot of people have felt that as well. I think for me personally, we've been in the trenches of parenthood, and there's also just been some underlying currents of some themes. But I think what's come up for me is the rosacea. See, I've always had great skin, and it's not just the physical for me. So I had this sudden onset of rosacea occur this year, which really caused me to...
What is that?
Rosacea is like a skin condition, and you can probably see here. Like there's a bit of a T-zone situation going on, a bit of redness. And it can be flared up by sunlight or by heat for some. And, there's many different drivers, which I won't get into now. But I think having this experience really caused me to slow down a little bit and consider myself worthy enough to look after myself, if that makes sense. And the stay-at-home mums will actually probably relate to that, where you put everyone first and you just, this martyr, and you're, not everyone, but this martyr, and you're doing all the things for everyone else, and slowly you're not looking after yourself. Or you get to the point where it's late at night and no one needs you, and you're doing things that isn't great for your health, like doom scrolling on social media or staying up late and being exposed to blue light. So there's been a lot of, for me, slowing down, prioritizing myself, because I can't run away from this.
Can I say,
yes,
jump in as well,
please,
while you're talking? But tell people what you do, because I think that's why it's been a lot for you as well, because of what you're passionate about, what you help others with.
Yeah.
And that interconnection around that.
Yes, so I'm a naturopath,
yeah,
a nutritionist, and I specialise in the area of gut health, particularly things like IBS, SIBO, general gut dysfunction, EMO, which we won't get into, but my area...
What was the last one?
EMO.
What's that?
Intestinal methanogen overgrowth.
Holy smokes. You know what I got to live with?
That it's very humbling to have this occur, because there's such a big connection between gut and skin.
That's right.
But I think for me, a lot of the drivers is emotional, and that's fantastic, because it's actually made me reflect on, to pause and to start reflecting on how I can connect with myself a little bit more.
More so, yeah. And in observation, in your defense, we've been married 10 years, and is it 10 years this year, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
2026, wow. And, you've even been to 3 of our retreats, and you've been on this spiritual aspect path a long time, of obviously, which I'm front and foremost in where people see me at with our retreats and things like that. And just in observation, obviously the intensity of having raising 2 young children. We don't have family around or support and things like that. So we're constantly interjuggling life.
Tag teaming
And everything is a big part of that. And I think, like you said, it's forced you to reflect on certain aspects, because you are looking at those emotional components, the different aspects of what else could be causing these things, as just opposed to the physical, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't, and thank you, symptoms like this, because you can't run away from them. You can't sort of just sweep it under the rug, because you see it every day. As a naturopath, I am conscious that I'm now showing up to patients with this on my face, which I haven't resolved yet. No, and it's getting better. For a number of reasons, it's getting better. But, certainly my ego got involved, where I was like, how am I going to show up to patients if I haven't resolved this yet? But I did actually want to ask you as well, what's been some of your biggest challenges of 2025? But also, I think what would be interesting for others to hear is that you've had such profound spiritual, if you want to call it that, experiences that have really rocked you to the core during the year. So I would love to hear how you deal with that, being a parent, showing up as a facilitator, how you integrate that into your day-to-day. Because the integration space is very small sometimes. You've got to find a way to weave it in as a parent, because it's like you're thrown back into the fire of being a dad and a husband and someone that I'm like, can you help me with the dishes and that sort of stuff?
Well, first of all, when you speak about the big shifts or the profound experiences and things like that, it's very easy to feel like that's I'm trying to find words. It's not glamorous. It's not pretty. Like there's always, what I've found in the self is like there's always layers that are slowly being taken away, which is allowing more of my expansive self to come through, if that makes sense. And it's in that metamorphosis of those shifts can be very challenging. I think I've walked the terrain long enough and done this for long enough to know how to, here we go again, and actually be in that right, because they're like mini rites of passages that we tend to move through. And as challenging as it is, having to come back into the real world instantly with the kids and having to deal with, Ellis losing it, or, just life itself. It's actually in some ways really grounding.
Yeah.
And it takes me away from that noise, and I have to be more in the moment. Because you can either lose your shit or practice what you preach. And any given moment is an opportunity. So I think it's almost like, I always go back to the gym analogy, but I've learned how to lift more weight with more reps over the years because my body's conditioned to it. I can be falling apart at the retreat and people won't really pick up on it or see it. Well, I don't think so anyway. But, those layers are unfolding, but there's a detachment from it where you really have to, because what else are you going to do? You have to show up 100%. And when you teach the things that we teach, I will never teach anything or speak of anything unless I fully understand it and embody it and live it myself to my best of my ability. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but in all that, but it's hard. There's no getting away from it. Sometimes I am knackered. Like, remember when I had literally recorded an episode with Greg Braden last week? I can't remember. It's a blur. But recently, and Greg's the only person I'll do this for, but I had to get up and record at 5 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, it was so early. So for me, and I normally get up at 5 and do my meditation practice in the morning, but so that means I was getting up at 4, but already I'd been unraveling out of a process those last couple of days. There was an intensity. And then of all nights, Ava decides to lose it. She was sleepwalking, screaming. And I spent about 2.5 hours literally comforting her back to sleep at 2 a.m. And I remember looking at the clock thinking it's 3 o'clock, thinking, oh my God, my alarm's going to go off in an hour to get ready for Greg. But you find a way through. And I told Greg what happened, and he found it hilarious. And
but also it just goes back to, you're a human having a human experience, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we've chosen to be humans, and so therefore, you're working on yourself and things are unraveling, and you're concerned by it, excited by it, whatever it might be, elated, but you are naturally integrating it just by being a dad and being a wife and being the person that's working or whatever it might be. But I think what could be really interesting to hear is an example of one of those spiritual experiences. Like, what happened and how did you navigate it?
Oh,
There's been many,
there's many.
especially this year. I feel like it's just up the ante.
Yeah. Well, I actually feel if people genuinely lean into this work and this topic that we talk about and are willing to actually start to explore the expansions of the heart and expansions of the concepts of higher self and embodying that more, and actually there's the body holds information, and there's within that information there's stuck energy which can be reflected as trauma. It's like I love the saying, the issue is in the tissue. Like it's in there, and through that revealing. But I truly believe that if you have a constant, consistent practice and you consistently lean in, the body is always reorganizing itself and it's getting ready, prepared to for the next layer to be removed. And some of those, when you really start to get in tune with yourself, they can be really big and expansive.
So give us an example.
So I'm setting up the example because if it happened 3 years ago, it wouldn't have happened because my body just wasn't ready for it yet. But basically, I dropped into Petra's process at the retreat earlier this year because there were 3 of us facilitating, and now and then I can just let go. And I remember going into the intention feeling something that needs to be removed, and I felt once something got activated within my solar plexus, and I could feel it throbbing as an energy was moving. And I remember even the energy feeling actually very dark and heavy. And I could then feel my thought patterns going really strange. Like, these are not even my thoughts. Why the hell am I thinking of this? Almost as if there'd been a murder or a killing or something really dark and horrific. And it started to the insight was starting to come that it was ancestral. But my body had been carrying this my whole life, and it was ready to release. But the release was so potent that I went outside and I was literally vomiting, but it was just energy, and I couldn't stop. And I'll give a shout out to San Ching, who is a Taoist master. He's been on the podcast a few times. We've really connected. He's such a great guy. And he's been giving me certain practices to help nurture these things through the year. And it's amazing when you start getting into the body and the nooks and crannies, what is it actually holding? What are we willing to release and it's not going anymore? And what excites me from that is that you can really start to feel the fabric of life, that energy, that pulse, that I believe gives rise to everything, actually entwined with your body and with your organs, and it changes the game. Like your resonance is literally starting to change from the inside out, and you're emitting a different frequency, and you're not really then stuck in so much. Like, when I reflect back on myself 10 years ago to who I am now, I'm just not that person in any shape or form. And that's where it gets exciting, but it's having to lean in and trust the process and ensure that you have good people around you that can support you when needed and that you can talk to. I mean, we're very lucky we have each other, and we get each other, So those things can be scary but exciting at the same time. And once you go through it enough, you tend to, the terrain, even though it's new, can feel familiar in some ways.
And I guess what I'm hearing as well, that it's like the practices are important, but also I think there's an element of having to let go as well. Like you do the practices, you show up for the practices, you read the thing. This is not just what you're doing. You read the self-help thing, you do all that sort of stuff to support yourself, but then there's an element of just having to let it go, and in that letting go is the integration. You know, it's like that you let go of the doing and you just allow what is unknown and for you to come your way as well.
Absolutely.
So because I can relate to the doing. I'm a doer. I am disciplined. I get things done, all that sort of stuff. But I think also to the detriment of not allowing and letting go, and through that process of not being very much the doer and not letting go and just welcoming and allowing, I lose the presence and the joy and the connection to self. And so I think that's been the biggest thing for me this year, reconnecting to that, like simplifying a little bit and letting go a little bit and prioritizing myself and remembering who I am outside of being the wife and the parent, you know. So there's no mistake that this is kind of happening. But I wanted to ask you as well, like, how do we support each other? Like, how do you feel like I support you when you're having these experiences? Because sometimes
well, you're just a tough grower, mate. You just say, get on with it.
I don't always say just get on with it.
I'm teasing you.
Because I do feel like sometimes it is unrelatable. Absolutely. A lot of the times it's unrelatable because it's not anything that I'm or have experienced. Because you're very sensitive to, I don't know if that's the right word for you, sensitive to I don't want to say spirit, but you know what I mean? Like, you're open to those things at the moment. So things are coming in and your body's doing things that is out of your control. And it's not something that I relate to at this point in my life. So often I feel like I don't do enough because I can listen to what you say, but you'll obviously have to have other outlets that may, like said Sam, that have gone through
Sam. She keeps calling you Sam.
I know
Sam,
that has gone through similar things or their own experiences. That can be the person that's like, yeah, man, like this is, go with it, and you know, to kind of lessen a bit of the fear or the concerns, or hey, what do you feel like it's going to look like on the other end, sort of thing. So I feel like I can be there to a degree. Yeah, but I can't be there to a relatable degree.
But no words are needed because of what we have and what is created. It's almost like it's the foundation of everything. The container that we have as a unit, me, you, and the two kids, and the bond and the love that's shared. And you know, obviously, there's we butt up against each other and that, but that it's always there. It's unquestionable. And even though, since especially having a second child, our moments are more fleeting, where we can actually even do this. Like, who knows what the kids are doing out there right now, right? We just thought we'd give it a crack.
I'm sweating now, so I'm thinking, what are they doing?
But yeah. So from that perspective, you get it and you understand it. Like I said, you've actually done 3 of our retreats at the beginning when me, Matt, and Petra started. You've been there. You get it. You understand it, and you know it's.
And I think,
but you always ask me what I need as well, especially before a retreat, after a retreat. How do we make things work so then I can be the best version of myself?
Yeah.
For the family. So there's always that support. And vice versa, right? You know, you're coming out now back into practice. By the way, she won't say it, but she's opening up her clinic more, and she works remotely as well through 2026. So if you got gut health problems, I promise you,
especially, and I did forget to mention constipation. It's a big deal for people.
It's a big deal. But it's a big problem.
Yeah, it is a big problem. Absolutely, it's a big problem that people don't like talking about.
Anyway.
Finish up. Yeah, sorry.
No, we're talking enough shit now, huh?
but like there's so many things I feel like I need a notepad to jog my memory. But I must say, before I met you, I was very much the explorer of self and you know, like searching for something, and all very much interested in the spirit. I mean, one of our first dates was I took you to the Kundalini yoga. The yoga, whatever it was, but it was just, you know, that was me. And so there's a part of me that feels quite envious, also very happy for you, but quite envious that you get to explore that. And then you know, like as my role as this like stay-at-home mum, I'm the one that's like mostly, I mean, you're here with us a lot, thankfully. You get to work from home, but I'm the one mostly that's like taking them to activities and packing their lunches and having to be responsible. And so kind of my time has been 8:30 at night, and then I haven't been filling it with the reconnection to self. It's been like doom scrolling or being on my computer working. So there's a part of me that's like, oh, yearning to get back to my version of what that is that you're experiencing. And I think this is all part of it. But yes, I'm still been in practice. I didn't close the doors, but I kind of was doing it very loosely around your schedule, the kids' schedule. And so the idea is this year to up the ante, open up the books a little bit more. Obviously, I'll still have my youngest that I'll be looking after, but I'm definitely going to have a lot more space to do what I love most, and that's support people through all sorts of gut
No, it's
dysfunction.
exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And it's always like, because I'm trying to interweave this message into my podcast, because, you know, I released David Clement's podcast yesterday morning.
Which is, I love it. If you haven't listened to it yet,
you know,
please
it
do,
was
guys.
a physicist, but you know, he's talking about Earth's activation, alien spaceships, bloody all sorts of, but in a very grounded way. He does it so beautifully. He's a very intelligent man, and his words carry a lot of weight when he shares things and what he makes sense. But the point is that I'm trying to interweave. So I'll have conversations like that, and then they'll blow up on YouTube and get, you know, probably 100,000 views or whatever. So there's a lot of people obviously craving this information, but let's not forget the physical aspects either. Like, health is a very passionate topic of mine, and I'm fortunate.
Oh, he is very, very keen on your health, which is, look, I'm grateful for.
I know, and it's something that I always try and infuse and encourage people, because my view is the more we look after our vehicle, our body, our temple, this very thing that allows us to experience life, the more we explore that, nurture that, and treat it really well, the more we're going to feel expansive, connected anyway in those current moments. And being married to you, you know, you've taught me so much around the importance of gut health and inflammation, and starting to look at the different things. Like, it's just a mind bend, the depth of where that can open up. That's why I'm resisting to ask you a question, because once you start going, I'm like,
oh no, and I do want to make this podcast about that. I think it's really, I think it's also very important for people to get to know you, the facilitator behind the scenes. But
oh, that's nice.
I did want to ask you though, because
me again.
Yeah, because you're very interested in your health, which is fantastic. And you know, I do suggest a lot of things, and right now we've got you on a protocol which he was quite resistant to doing. Yes, because I had to ask you to do some things that aren't necessarily on the broad scheme of things, if that's a way to say it, bad foods to avoid, or not that there's a bad or a good, but you know, for your makeup, we were adjusting the way that you were eating, which you were quite attached to and resistant to. But yeah, but I do congratulate you that you got there, and you listening to me, and we can kind of, and I think that's what's really interesting, is that you can confront me with the way that I'm being emotionally or my behavior, and I'll be like, initially don't want to hear it, but then it sits with me and it lands eventually, and I'm like, oh, he's bloody right. Or I look at it more deeply, and I think the same sort of happens with you, where I'll be kind of like, we really should look at that. We really might address, like, let's address that. Let's give it a crack. You never know. We can kind of retest to see what those parameters look like.
Like a dog with a bone once you get going.
But once you're there, you're like very diligent and very.
But I think, it's surprising, and it's funny how the resistant things comes in, but in reflection.
Particularly between us two.
Yeah, like, but one of the biggest, I did, quick side story, one of the biggest resistances I kind of went, which makes complete sense looking back, thinking, what the was I thinking, was when you did the Low Tox course about.
Oh, with Alex Stewart.
With Alex Stewart. Was it 5 years ago, 6 years ago? I can't remember where it was. And then you just became militant. It was like everything.
Once you know, you know.
That had a chemical of some sort in it was gone.
Yeah.
And it was just like, shit, where's it gone? What's happened there? You know. And
where's my perfume?
And then we start using soaps that don't clean anything and everything. But but what happened was for no, and I like those are as a man, those are the things that I would kind of go like, no, I get it, I understand it, but yeah, I'll do that in another few months. And then
Yeah.
you know you've done it, you've just stripped everything out, and I was like, oh my God. But then a few months later, once you then go to somebody else's house or something gets introduced, you realize how much those chemicals are affecting us and actually going in, like in us.
Yeah.
And like, you know, all the hormone disruptions, gut to, so all those things that you talk about constantly. And it's just like mind blowing. And for me, that was where I think I was resistant, but really stood out,
Yeah.
you know,
And doesn't having kids make you even more fierce with those things? Because I think, you know,
big time.
we might get presents that are like plastic bath toys. I'm like, there is no way, knowing what I know, that I'm actually going to be using these plastic bath toys. Like, no, I'm just not doing it to my children. Being endocrine disruptors and everything.
I know,
so,
but you know what you know what you don't know.
Totally.
And we are kind of older parents, and I
Totally.
look at that, which is a blessing and a curse.
We're vintage parents.
Yeah, fine wine parents, but which I love at the same time because I'm definitely wiser than I was when I'm 30.
Totally.
You know, and our kids will grow up, they'll either hate us or love us for it, you know, in 15, 20 years time, time will tell. But
I think it's interesting as a woman, though, being an older parent. Like, I don't feel 47, whatever that feels like. But there's also that phase the other phase that you're in, that second puberty, where it's like perimenopause, menopause, all that sort of stuff. But you got young kids, and you know, it's like it's an interesting place to be, which I hope maybe I can write about when I'm on the other end of it all.
But looping it all the way back to saying how you support and everything else, that, you know, the way you challenge and vice versa, and that it's always done from a place of care and love. And, you know, I think it's fantastic. And there's when we can have something dynamic like that allows us to grow. And even though we grow at our own pace, it forces us in some ways to keep checking ourselves, reflecting and looking at that, because at the end of the day, it's actually wanting what's best for us, wanting what's best for our family and you know, and the people in our circle, right? That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. And it's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that feel like a complete podcast? Is there anything?
I don't know. Did you learn anything? Was that useful? Is there anything? Let me think, because I had some questions. This is how we're different.
Oh no, come on.
This is how we are different, because I like to be prepared and write the questions and send it through to the person and kind of mull over those answers. Whereas you can, which is just because we've both got a podcast, but I will do the research and will be.
Well, your podcast is very different.
Very different. Like, but you are just relaxed and confident, where you can just show up and it'll just be what it is. And it's always really great and the way that it should be. Whereas I'd love to be that way, but I have to be prepared, because that's what relaxes me.
Yeah, but you're talking about very technical, different things, where mine's more...
Potentially, but still, I think that there's which is why I kind of listen to you say on those, when you have those spiritual experiences, and then you had Greg Braden the next day, and then you had Ava who had a nightmare, or you had to tend to her in the nighttime. That for me, as hairy as that sounds, and as like really not great for your mental health, to show up like that to a podcast, there's an element of me that goes, oh, if that had happened to me, I would have been probably a bit more relaxed, because you're just like, I'm here. There's no anxiety around it. I'm showing up. I'm tired. I'm just like, oh, okay, you know? So there's, anyways, there was a reason to that. And
I don't know. But even with all that, what I've found is, at the end of the day, no matter who's on the other end of the podcast or who you meet in person, and, you know, I've rubbed shoulders with some amazing people. People are just people.
Yeah.
And the more you just yourself to them, like, I just tell,
totally.
You know, like, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
And then it takes that pressure off. If I'm knackered and my brain's not working, I'll tell them before we hit record.
But it's more from my aspect. I kind of go, are we talking about something different? Is the person on the other end that's listening going to get an education of some sort, or take one piece of information away that they can action in their life? And so I feel like for me, I need a structure. I need to plan it so all of those things are crossed off.
Yeah.
You know? So what was your biggest challenge this year, and what are you going to welcome in? What do you want to welcome in 2026?
Well, the biggest challenge, by far the biggest challenge, for me, it felt like one big initiation. I got to be honest.
It was huge.
And like when I reflect back, there's at least 4 or 5 points where there was that real contraction and then leaning into the next expansion from it. So from a metaphysical aspect, like it's hard to put into words, you know, integrate it, because people see the podcast, they see the retreats, they see us out in the workshops, and you're only seeing one end. Nobody sees what goes on as a business and the back end, and what myself, Matt and Petra coordinate, and then with the beautiful Shay and Lee and you know, the team in the Philippines that are helping us as well. Like there's a whole thing that's going on to make it as smooth as possible. And in times you just gotta laugh, because it's like, like business owners, like, hats off to anyone that has their own company, their own business, and is not only doing that but wanting to do good in the world with their values and integrity in place, and sticking to that no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough. So the point is that we decided to put new systems in this year, which still haven't finished yet, which was a big financial risk, and that's been squeezing us as well. Like, oh my gosh, you know, and then so there's all that stuff that's going on. But then you turn up and then you're in your zone of genius when you're facilitating, but nobody sees all those other things, you know. And being a dad, being a parent, you know, and the like kids, wow, they squeeze you.
They definitely do. But before you get into what you want to welcome in, though, I did want to ask you, I think it might be useful for others, like if others are feeling like they're experiencing some awakenings or some messy spiritual experiences or things coming in, what do you want to say to them? How can they integrate it? What do you want to say? Even beyond.
Well, it's hard without knowing the individual, but something that just came to mind was, I can't remember, oh, bless you, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry. She was Czech, living in the UK, and she came to our Croatia retreat, and her gifts were clearly activating and coming online, and she was falling apart, absolutely falling apart, and it was terrifying her. And the question I asked her was, would you rather your life moving forward knowing that this is possible and that you can lean into these gifts, or if I took all these gifts that are coming online away from you right now so you could go back to your old life, is that what you would rather? And instantly her mindset shifted to like, oh my God,
I'm ready to go through the mess.
I'm ready for it. So they're the things that I remind myself, because the body can react differently. So your heart is longing for something more. Your mind might be in line with your heart, everything, but the body is like resisting, and the body is you know, has its own unique intelligence, and it can be contradicting because it doesn't feel safe. And the moment we start to understand that, we can start to get everything, the heart, the mind, in alignment with the body, and then we start to live a life that allows that body to feel safe enough to let it go. Because at the end of the day, when things move, it's just energy.
Yeah, it
is just energy. It's just information. But of course, we have meaning imposed upon it. We have the story, everything that's intertwined with it, the identity. Once all those things intertwine, that's where the true resistance. But if we can start to separate those out and we need space to do that. We need to slow down. We got to stop not forcing it, wanting it to just go away, and ask, what can I learn from this? Where's the lesson in this? Can I be with this?
Yeah.
And when you do, everything starts shifting. But, you know, I truly believe that we're living in a particular time in history where, you know, globally, planetary, everything is squeezing us for us to lean into that expansive self. And the more we accept it, and the more we lean into it, as opposed to run away and resist it, the more we make peace with it, and things accelerate. But it's a dance, you know.
It's a dance, because obviously it's uncomfortable at the time. I'm sure I've heard you
Yeah.
say a few times, oh, I don't know if I want this. And then
Totally.
again, you probably talk to yourself
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, do I want to go back to, or do I want to move forward with what's coming in?
And
what a privilege.
Yeah,
you know?
and as simple as it sounds, but really leaning into gratitude is massive. And it's oversaid, overused, overworked, overjournaled, but actually, but feeling into it and taking moments to count your blessings and really feeling it. Like every morning I see all of you in my meditation and I feel into you.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
Am
I the angry one?
No. But when you feel into that essence, that love, it opens everything up and it inspires you to why you're doing that. So I know I appreciate some people might not have that connection, or they're not in that same family position or whatever. But there's always something. There's always something that you can feel into, and they're the things. They are the threads that propel us forward. And if we nurture that, the body responds, the mind responds, the heart responds. It really does start to influence and make a difference. And it's a non-negotiable. Yeah. And so 2026, let's tie it up. We're blowing out here. The kids have probably trashed the house.
I can hear them hanging around.
What you want to lean into 2026?
I honestly, I'm trying to think of a word for this here, and I keep coming up. I'm not quite certain yet, but I do want to be the radiant version of myself. I want to be radiance. I want to have joy again. I feel like the stresses of this year has robbed us of the joy a little bit. So I want to welcome in a bit more joy, and I just kind of want to show up as the person I know is within me. The person that is, that I want to be, if that makes sense. I need to journal this down. I haven't had the space to do it.
Cuff, not prepared,
totally.
see?
So I'm actually regurgitating to you guys. But I think this year there was a lot of victim mentality. So that's what I want to get rid of, the victim mentality. And welcome a bit more joy and radiance, and
Beautiful.
Yeah, help more people.
Yeah. Well, where can people go to find you if they want to get the gut sorted?
Well, they can come and find me on lindagriparic.com, and also I have a podcast, Love and Guts.
I'll put a link in the YouTube. And you got a podcast, Love and Guts?
Yes.
Yeah. How often are you going to podcast now?
Well, I was doing it once a week, but now it's kind of
then
like
we had children.
once a month. I'm going to up the ante on that as well. But there's a big bank of episodes, probably over 300. Not like you,
Wow.
but over 300 that you can learn from. Lots of it is centered around gut, but that extends to everywhere, doesn't it? Brain, skin, mental health. You will find lots of
How do you say your maiden
content.
name again?
My maiden name?
Yeah.
Griparic.
Griparic.
Lynda Griparic.
Well, there'll be a link in the show notes to all of that as well.
Yes. So that's how you can find me.
Amazing. Yeah.
On all the socials as well. So I'm a bit more active on Insta if you have questions.
And if you regularly listen to my podcast, I tell you every week where you can find me. But hopefully we'll meet you in person someday. We'll be in Bali. Lynda will be there as well.
Yes.
So Bali's going to be end of June retreat this year. That'll be the next one because the others are sold out.
And you're getting out of saying what you want to welcome in.
Oh.
You forgot.
Ease and abundance.
Yeah.
Ease and a finished system for living flow.
A finished system. Yeah. Let's hope. Well, so far the last 2 days
I'm
have
excited,
proven to be quite inspired. So, fingers crossed it just keeps going down that trajectory for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
For all of us.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, as always, if you are watching this on YouTube, any likes, shares, subscribing always helps get these conversations out to you. And of course, let us know where you are in the world listening to this from, and in the comments below. And if you got something out of it. Anyway, beautiful.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
See
Much
you
love,
later, everyone. Happy
Bye-bye.
New Year.